Well, hello, 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 everybody. So glad you're joining us this evening. This is Regina, and I'm with the Juice Radio and Talk Show. I'm just really ready to take a nap. An evening nap. Hey, I've got our co-hosts are look like they're trying to log in. Once they can get logged in, we'll go ahead and we will bring them online. Hey, the Juice Radio and Talk Show, I just want to explain to you people that the Juice Radio and Talk Show is not a gossip channel. This channel is really strictly about getting people to know the truth about some information that's out there, some news topics that may be out there going on in social media right now. But we don't want to talk about it because we want to gossip. We want to talk about these stories so that we can try and help other people to not fall into some of these same categories that are happening with these stories. And also, we want you to know that some of these things, listen, they happen, but it doesn't mean that the church or God is a bad person, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Hey, we've got Jennifer and Tyrone here. Hey, how are you? Can you guys hear me? Okay, while they're getting their equipment set up, we're going to go ahead and proceed on here. Hey, for those of you who are here, I just want to put up my disclaimer. Here's our disclaimer here. All right, make sure that we're protected with these laws and things that goes on social media, okay? So here we have that. Also, for those of you who are joining us, I would like for you to know that you can join us also tomorrow. We're going to be having a happy marriage lifestyle show that we come on live tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. My husband and I do that show, and it is so much fun. I mean, it's so exciting. What we do is we take our married life and we share that with you so that you can also understand some of the things that happen in our marriage, but it don't stop us from being happily married for these remaining years. And we've been married now almost 20 years. And if we could do it, you can too. So I want you to join us tomorrow at 6:30 for that. Hey, Jennifer and Tyrone, I'm not hearing you. Not a problem, not a problem. Okay, please add the other one. Okay. Okay. Can you hear now?
Yeah, I told you. Well, we could hear you the whole time. I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell Tyrone, I don't know if you know how to just add the audio from this one.
Oh,
And, you
okay.
know,
No, that's all right. Jennifer, you got the master code, so we can do that next week. I don't know how to do that part, but Tyrone, you can give it to Tyrone and he can do it. So
mhm.
how are you guys doing anyway?
But we're doing all right. It's been a great week for us. We had our anniversary yesterday. Things are certainly going good. And yeah, it's been a good week. It's been a crazy week for temperature. Are you hot in your house right now? Because I'm warm.
Listen, I had to put on just a little light jacket. It got just a little chilly, but I was with short sleeves today. But it was warm today. It was in the 60s, where for us warm, my Florida
Yeah.
family would think that's freezing cold.
Yeah,
But for
for
us,
some
it was
reason
warm.
it's gotten warmed up. Tyrone saying we're gonna get snow. Like, I don't know about that, but
Oh,
we'll see how that works out. Um,
we're gonna have to
but
check it
yeah, now I just want to let you know we did log in, and are you able to change? We're not able to change anything, right, Ty?
Not
Yeah,
right away.
No
But
problem. We'll have it all set up. We can go in the middle of the week and we'll get it together. Today
for
we'll just
sure.
run with the show. How you doing, Tyrone?
wonderful, 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 wonderful. Oh man, this, like she said, has been a wonderful week celebrating our ninth anniversary,
Ah,
and I've just been relaxing and enjoying the time with her.
I love that. I really love that. So you guys have 9 years together.
Yes.
9 years. You enjoying that? Hey, that is fantastic. I love it. And enjoy some more. Many, many more to you.
We appreciate it. Yes, we will.
Yes.
Enjoy it. Hey, I just want to let everybody know that we also have a podcast out now. It's called the Juicy Chatterbox Podcast. For all of you podcast listeners, you can find the Juicy Chatterbox Podcast on most major streaming platforms. You're going to love the Juicy Chatterbox Podcast. It's me and my husband and our guests having conversations to get you through your day and through your week. Join us at the Juicy Chatterbox Podcast on most major streaming platforms, and it is on Apple Podcasts as well. Hey, I also want to invite you all to get this free book. This is a book my grandmother wrote. It's called We Made a Vow. We have been offering this on our Happy Marriage Lifestyle program that we do on Friday nights. We offered this book to you for free. Free. That's no cost. You don't pay the shipping. You don't pay for the book. We cover everything. And we do that because we think this book is going to inspire you and help you to get the knowledge that you need for your marriage. Listen, this is a wonderful book, and it's not large. It's not going to take you a whole day. You can read it in probably, a couple of hours maybe. But we want you to have this book free of charge. It's called We Made a Vow, To God Be the Glory. These are my actual grandparents' picture on the front. That's really them. Okay. My grandfather is resting in heaven. My grandmother is still here. She has celebrated her 97th birthday.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, yay.
And she's getting ready to celebrate her 98th birthday. And she is a wonderful powerhouse for God. And she's going to help you all to understand how she had one husband. I wish I could have done it, Grandma, but I'm on 3, but I'm going to stop at 3. We want to invite Avery. Hey, Avery, say hello to Avery. He's joining us tonight.
Avery.
Had a little connection issues, but I made it.
Listen,
Awesome.
even if your screen freezes up, just keep talking because that
All
audio
right.
comes in great.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here. Do you guys want to say anything before we jump into these categories here?
Good to be alive.
Amen.
Amen.
Avery, you just celebrated an anniversary too, didn't you?
Well, November last year. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
congrats. And Jennifer and Tyrone just celebrated their anniversary as well.
Yeah, love birds.
I know. Now, Avery's got us beat because Avery has been married for how long, Avery?
30 years.
My Lord.
Ooh-wee.
Awesome.
Avery, you are the senior in the group.
But you know
Well,
what?
Uh-huh.
One thing I would like to say, this is the joys of having cool people in a group that are all married, not trying to exclude any single people, but we can rejoice in each other's love without, knowing that there's any animosity or feeling away about somebody being happy with theirs. It's still all love, or we're not concerned about somebody trying to get with somebody, or hey, she's being real nice to me. Do you think she's trying to get with me? No, maybe it's maybe she's just a nice person. So that's one thing I really love about having married friends, because most married friends, are confident in what they have and the relationship that they've garnered with their loved ones, so they can have relationships with other people without being concerned about those things.
Absolutely. And I don't even know if there's another panel that's out right now that has 3 married couples on the panel. We do have another individual, Terrence. We are trying to get his equipment together. He is single, but we're going to find Terrence a wife as well. And eventually we're going to have Terrence on the program. He is having some things that we're trying to get his equipment together. So Terrence, if you're out there watching, we haven't forgotten you. We're not going to allow you to abandon ship. We are going to get you on this platform with us. So guys, we've got a few stories to talk about. The first story I would like to start off with is Bishop Noel Jones. Noel Jones. Come on, Bishop has gotten engaged. I'm going to see if I can bring up this video here. Let me see if I can share my screen. I'm going to try and share my screen here with you. And I'm just going to run a real quick little snippet here. Let's see if we can hear this one.
Loretta, come up here, please.
Can you guys see that?
We can surely hear it. Oh, we can hear it. Okay, yeah. And see it now. Yes.
Is it too loud?
Now,
Just a little loud.
This is from Larry Reed's Instagram page here. Bishop Noel Jones decided he wanted to propose to Loretta.
now, I thought about, should I? I thought about, should I give up my freedom coat for a straitjacket? I thought about, should I, at my age, get married?
This is not.
All right, guys, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear it. What do you guys have to say about this?
Y'all can go ahead because I have strong feelings about this. Y'all can move forward first because I have words upon words. Go ahead, Avery.
I yield to my elders.
Now remember, we're the nice channel. But we are going to be ourselves. Avery, we are the truthful, nice channel. Avery, tell us your thoughts.
I think if he would have done it maybe 10, 15 years ago. Well,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
But I mean, I guess if he's ready and that's what he wants to do, go for it.
I get it.
I mean, honestly, I didn't know anything about her until the Preachers of LA. So
right.
So the background is
Jones getting married.
In the organization that I grew up in. So I knew Bishop Jones before he was Bishop Jones. When he had 100 and something members in Longview, Texas, as a kid, I grew up on him, so I've been knowing him all my life. But I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
it
is.
It's hard to
because it's hard because you that human side, you want to see somebody happy, but then again you from the show that celebrity perspective, that's you wondering, okay, what is all this really about too? So I don't know.
Well, here's a picture of the show that he was on when they were both on the show Preachers of LA. And this was back in 2014. And this is Bishop Noel Jones and this is Loretta. And at that time they were dating. The two of them were dating. And I think I kind of get what you're saying, Avery, in the aspect of we kind of feel like allegedly she wanted to be married back all those years. And now he's waiting now. And it's so many years have passed. And it's like, kind of like, okay, now you're in your older years and now you finally want to get married to her. But I get what you're saying. In the chat, my cousin Tammy says, my grandmother says to tell everyone hello. Hey, Grandma.
Hey.
Love her. Tyrone, you want to chime in, or are you going to be at a loss for words at this moment too?
I'm not at a loss for words. I actually feel a certain type of way for Miss Loretta. Understanding she stood by her man all these years.
Yes, she did.
And it it makes me question, like, where is her reward for her loyalty? Years ago. Not now, but years ago, I
I'm sorry,
get
that was lightning.
as a man, we are particular about people coming in our spaces, especially for him being who he was, understanding that he's guarded about that space and having people to come in and taking advantage
Right,
of him.
right, right.
But hasn't she shown you who she is
A while
years ago?
ago. Years ago. Yeah.
And
And
it's
with
just,
every year proving it that much more.
yeah. I mean, she was here for you the first 3 years,
10, 20.
10, 20, now 30.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
been some time.
oof,
Well, for me, I know I have like somewhat of a unique look at this.
Hmm.
So my one thing I'm coming to understand, we all ask God for wisdom upon wisdom upon wisdom. And the thing that I've been seeing is that a lot of people have a horrible view of what marriage is. So
Oh,
who
point.
would want to get married and you are under the impression that you're going to not receive a crown, ring, or anything like that, not blessings bestowed, not wonderfulness, but a straitjacket? That's, if that's what we believe marriage is, why are we even getting married? Why are you
mhm,
even buckling down and doing it now? If that's what you believe marriage is going to do for you, maybe marriage just ain't for you and you could just keep that
Right.
out of it. But at the end of the day, maybe he wants to reward her for staying down for so long. Though that is not exactly the route that I would go in my life. I'm a stingy
Mhm.
woman. I don't like to share, and what's mine is going to be mine. And uh, if we're holding off on marriage just because you want to do whatever you want to do, then you don't want to do me. So I feel that he never had a positive image in his mind of what marriage is or can be, which made it
Mhm.
like because if you see a plate of food, okay, it may taste amazing, but when you look at it and it looks like slop, the taste is not going to matter because it's not appealing to your eye.
Mhm.
And I believe that's what marriage was for the bishop. Not
Yeah.
appealing to the eye, but having to do it because he needs the sustenance. Having to do it because you don't want to die alone. Having to do it because if you're in the hospital, the people that have the rights, to say whatever or fulfill whatever you want, you would want the person that's been with you all this time, and it sounds like he does want that, to be the person to be able to give the last word or to make sure that his final wishes are carried out.
Mhm.
It's a lot of stuff that comes rights that come with being married as well. And I believe, mortality setting in.
yeah. That was my biggest reservation of this is, are you doing this because your mortality is setting in, and through this now age of rigor mortis, you're like, hey, well, now I need to get my affairs in order.
Huh. Wow, think
Um,
about that. Affairs in order.
Listen, I'm going to tell you my opinion on this. I saw several videos on it. There were several different people who had posted this engagement. One video I did see that this proposal, not engaged, the proposal was done on her birthday, and that there was a birthday cake and celebration for her the same day, and it was done on her birthday. And I think that was thoughtful of Bishop
Yeah.
to propose to her on her birthday. It is something that is an easier date to remember. Hey, he proposed to me on my birthday, which is I thought was kind and caressing. I think it was really nice. He did have a Cracker Jack box that he had her ring in. And he asked the gentleman that was next to him to hand him the Cracker Jack box, and he showed it to her. So I think that's an inside joke between him and Loretta, or an inside something between the two of them. There were some people on social media that were making it look as though the bishop was being cheap, or he gave her a ring out of a Cracker Jack box and blah blah blah. But I watched it myself, and I don't think it was being cheap. I think it was being something, a nice gesture between the two of them, whatever that inside thing is. And when I saw the ring that he pulled out, it was not the size of a Cracker Jack ring.
No, it wasn't.
It was not. It took up most of the popcorn space in that box.
Yeah, it did.
And it had more than peanuts on it, for the rings. Nice size ring, beautiful ring. So I saw that. So I thought that gesture of him presenting her with the ring from the Cracker Jack box was cute. Now, my thoughts on, did he wait too long? Why now? I think a lot of people have feelings like Jennifer, and like Tyrone says, he's getting older. Maybe he doesn't want to be alone by himself. Maybe she wore him down, and finally she said, listen, it's been all these decades, we need to do this. I don't know. But I am actually happy for Bishop Noel, and I am extremely happy for Loretta. I'm praying that she gets her beautiful wedding and she gets to live that wonderful, happy, married lifestyle for herself and for Bishop Noel Jones. I do think Bishop could have sped this up a little bit. I don't think it was really fair to Loretta to have to wait. Well, yeah, he could have traveled some few miles ahead. He could have. But you know what? One thing when I saw this, I thought about this, and I said this to myself. Loretta is a very patient woman.
Yes.
She has to be one of the most extremely patient women probably out right now. And not only that, she's persistent and she's stuck in there with, because let me tell you, I don't know if I could have done those many years. And so I'm just gonna say I'm happy for them. My husband and I, we were dating, I think 3-4 months, and we went to the courthouse. We went to the courthouse, paid our $85, and got married. And 20 years later, we're still together.
Wow.
So I'm very, very happy for Bishop and Loretta.
I do have one more thing to say.
Yes, add away. Yes.
I hope that he can come back after being married to tell the world and to any man that has seen his relationship that I'm not saying that marriage doesn't change anything, but your relationship really doesn't. I don't know how much your relationship could really change outside of your growth as a person. I don't think there will be too much of a difference between the 30 years and the first year of marriage as far as their relationship is concerned.
I don't think so either. I don't know how much is going to change in the household because they've been together all this time. I'm sure there's a toothbrush of hers in that house somewhere.
Or something.
Red bottoms.
At least one drawer. I mean,
I'm just saying there's a toothbrush somewhere, maybe an outfit in the closet. I don't know, but 30 years is a long time. There's got to be a sign of a woman in that house somewhere.
Exactly.
So I'm not saying she did anything, but I'm saying there's got to be a sign that she was there besides a picture on the wall.
Yeah, and you know what? Let me ask you guys something, as married people. I know how I feel about it, but there's a lot of men and women that say that marriage changes things within, your relationship. What do you guys think about that? Like, do you guys feel the same, or what do y'all think?
As far as marriage changes things, how though? It changes things for the relationship, it changes things for the individual, or
I've
it
heard
changes for the household.
I've heard people say that it changes the relationship in general. I guess people try to um be some supposed to be, or some thought or way that marriage is supposed to be, I guess, or try to act like what they think marriage is rather than just be in their relationship as their relationship has always been. And
Hmm.
I've heard people say, of course, unmarried people, that marriage changes you, or see other people that get married and you see that they change, but they just don't understand. It's like, yeah, they're married and they're going to be with their spouse more often. Of course, that's a change. But I've heard people complain and say that the relationship changes, or, the people change when they get married. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what that is.
Well,
I,
Avery,
I,
what's your thoughts on it?
I think a lot of times what happens is, for the most part, we're giving that person maybe 50 to 60% of ourselves before we get married. So
Mm,
now when we get married, everything about us is exposed now. So there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to hide anymore. So so
Mm-hmm.
so so now I get to see how you really are, and you get to see how I really am. That part that I was kind of covering up a little bit because I wanted you to say I do instead of I
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah, I
think
got
that's a part of it. That's a part of it.
I think so too. And actually, in any relationship, there will always be change. When you get a brand new job, that's a new relationship.
you. Mm.
And the change will take place. You can no longer sit on the sofa with your friends. You have to go to work. So that's a change that the friends may not like. So even when you get married, there's always going to be a change that someone says, well, I don't think I like this. The person who was used to going out every night when they wanted to, now they understand you've got somebody else, in this house. You may not be able to do those things. There's always going to be a form of change anyway. And you're right, Holy Spirit. The most thing you're going to have is a change of address.
Hey,
So everybody that was at that old address may not be able to come to this new address,
yeah,
and so forth. So there's always going to be some form of change, and there's some people are going to view it as good, some people are going to view it as bad, but it takes that individual to determine what it is, how they want it to see. When I got married, to my husband, the changes was okay. Now I've got to, like, Avery said, everything's going to be in the open. You've got to, I guess we're all adults here, but you've got to have to undress yourself. You're just going to have to be totally, pure in front of that person. You're not going to be able to hide anything now. You're not going to be able to cover up, anything. Not in the sense of just your body, but your whole entire life has to be opened up to that individual. Those things that people locked behind doors to hide because they wanted to court this person. Now you are married to this person. There's no place for you to hide that in the house. It is going to get exposed eventually. So,
yeah.
comments.
Ooh. For me, growing up, I heard the stigma of marriage being the institution of finance. It's all financial driven, and that's the only thing that people tended to focus upon when they're getting married is just the finances. They're not thinking about their personalities clashing. They're not thinking about the traditions that they want to bring to the new relationship. They're
Yeah,
not even thinking about really where they want to live and how that fits in with the economics.
How to
They're
integrate
just looking at
families.
they're just looking at, oh, how much you make? I make that much. You make this much?
Okay, let's get into
Let's
this
get this
house.
together and we'll just buy our way through the rest of our life. And I think it's a little more than that. Marriage is a
Of
whole lot
course.
more than that. And I hate that that's what a vast majority of the United States, I would say. It's a
And and
there's
that's
no
true.
pay.
That is true. There's a lot of people when they decide to get married, you're absolutely right that they will have the question of the money, and they're like, I don't want to share my money. We want to have, things separate, and so forth. And it may work for some couples. That's, their choice. But finances is a big part of marriage. It is a large part. Avery, you want to chime in?
Well, again, it's I think it's the it's just that unveiling
Right.
it's that unveiling. Once we get used to, as you said, becoming naked and becoming comfortable, then
Right.
we can progress and just, hey, let our hair down and adjust to those what were abnormalities. They just become normal,
Right.
in a relationship. But then
Ab-
too, I like what Jennifer said earlier. It's about, then too, it's about us as married couples portraying it in such a positive way, to
right.
where, and even when because we all know we have issues, and we have marital problems and all of that we have to work
Right.
through, but on the front, we show it as, hey, yes, we have some problems and all that stuff, but I would rather be married than single. That's just me.
That's our choice. We want to take a brief moment to thank our sponsor, Truth and Triumph Ministries. Truth and Triumph Ministry loves uniting people together for the good in each and every one of us. Truth and Triumph Ministry. Listen, I love Truth and Triumph Ministries. They will let us do interviews on individuals. If you have a story you would like to share on this channel, feel free to inbox us to get more information on how we can have you as a guest on our show. Listen, I again am happy for Bishop Noel Jones. And I was reading up on him. I wasn't even aware that Bishop Noel Jones has children. I don't know if they're his birth children or they are adopted children, but he has children. And I did know this, that his sister is the actress Grace Jones. Aware of that. But I want to say congratulations to Bishop Noel Jones and Loretta. Now, my husband said this. He said, well, we'll wait for the wedding.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
How long that's gonna take?
That's what he said. He says, we're going to wait for the wedding. So I said, okay, sweetheart, we will do that. All right.
When did you on TV with it?
Or maybe they're already married.
Maybe they are. All right. So going on to our next story, there's a church that has gone through a church split. Here's another church split. There is a highlighted story. I'll see if I can bring this one up for you. And we want to discuss this one. Here's our story here. All right. So we've had this story, and it's brought to us by the Daily Beast. The writer on this one is Emily Sugarman, and she speaks of this church, and it is the Venue Church in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And there has been a situation where the pastor is allegedly had a secret affair with one of the church staffers. And this is the gentleman here that they're speaking of. This pastor is Tavner Smith. I understand from reading up on this story that the pastor and his wife, who he was married to at the time, have divorced because of this and allegedly some other things that happened. And the young lady that this pastor was allegedly having an affair with, was also married at the time that all this was going on as well. And they also attended the same church. Well, since this thing happened, the husband that she was married to has also filed for divorce. And one of the things that I found in this story is that the husband has put in his paperwork that he does not want his children to ever attend that church again. That is part of his agreement. What do you guys have? You guys read up on this story?
Mm.
I'm going to give you some highlights of it. And again, I'm not sharing this story for the gossip. I want to share this story so that I can try and help people to understand that these things that happen in church are the individuals. But
Yes.
because it's an individual's actions, it affects the members and the building and the status of the church because these things happen. So what this story happened, this story was actually written January of this year. The story does say that the pastor and his wife divorced last year. But here it says that what happened, it says a volunteer for the church, no, it says when volunteers at the Vineyard Church of Chattanooga, Tennessee, arrived at their pastor's house last November, they were hoping to raise his spirits with a surprise visit. Now, let me pause. I'm reading the story that was written in the Daily Beast. The members decided they wanted to go to the pastor's house and give him a surprise visit. Instead, the writers write that they got shocked when the pastor was found alone with a female church employee, she in a towel, he in his boxers. Now, it went on to say that the pastor and the young lady said that there was nothing happening, that they were making chili dogs, and some of the chili fell on their clothes. And so they had to get out of those clothes because of the chili that was on the clothes. Of course, the volunteer that was there and saw it says in the story, she says that she does not really agree what happened here. Long story short, this pastor and the young lady had been seen in churches, the church being very close with each other. And now these allegations are up saying that they had an affair, where all of this has led to some of the members, a large majority of the members leaving the church. And of course, 2 divorces. Not only divorces, but you've got children involved as well. And the sad part of this story is I read one young lady who said she loved the church. She never wanted to leave the church. She came in. She said herself in the story that she was a mean person. And when she came to the church, it changed her life. And she says now that this has all happened, she has left the church and she does not know what she's going to do with her life. Mm-hmm. Tell me, you guys, what's your thoughts?
Isn't sad?
It is. It is. And also, allegedly, there's a secret recorded video of the pastor that aired that showed the pastor out at a dinner with this young lady. And allegedly, the video showed them kissing one another, allegedly here. So this pastor actually comes, they said in the article that he was a student at Ron Carpenter's church. You'll remember Ron Carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
At Ron Carpenter's church. Yes. So here's the reason why I wanted to pull this story up and have a conversation about it. Listen, I understand that we're all human and we can sometimes get caught in the flesh. As a leader, a man or woman of God, and you are leading a ministry, please try and do your best to not get in relationships where a person can even assume there's something going on. For this people, when they said that they found them at the house together, she in a towel and him in his boxers, my first question was, why was a pastor and this lady in his home together alone? And even if you had chili dogs, I would probably just left that stain on my clothes. Yes.
I'm wondering who had the key. How do we get in the house?
Thank you.
Why people
Hmm.
got keys to your house, baby?
Sound like it's set up to me.
Okay. And also, I'm sorry. There's an expression that I've been hearing a lot on the YouTube streets. I'm not going to allow you to pump me full of BS. Okay.
Mm,
You
yeah.
could have kept that whole hot dog story. What kind of are we not adults? You know, if it's going to be what it is, if you're going to think it's what it's going to be, what you think it is, go ahead and think that. I ain't going to give you no story of what it is, but
Right.
the thing for me is like I know we all want the hunch. I know we all want to get it in, you know what I'm saying? But hey, is it okay if we can all just go to our people that we are married to, our wives and our husbands, and say, "Look, I don't want to do this no more.
I'm not happy.
I'm not."
Right.
And
Have
then
a conversation. Right.
it's like sometimes you want to try things before you want to do something so drastic as far as getting a divorce. But no, you have indulged in these thoughts of being with this woman to the point where you need to act on it. So
Mm.
you need to do what is right towards your children and your wife and let her know, and then be smart enough to wait till she does the same for her husband. But then again, that takes too much time, and I want the sex now. And it's like it's just so much wrong in these things, and then you have the nerve to be preaching and talking about doing right, talking about giving your issues to the Lord, talking about all of those things. But now we have a story that proves that you don't do those things.
Well, here's what I want, and then I'm going to let Avery speak. Here's the thing that when I was reading this whole thing, because it's several, it's a long story here. Here's the thing that I did not like that the pastor did in this whole situation. There's a comment here that states that after these things started splitting, and the pastor did go in front of the church and say that him and his wife were separating. He announced that to the church January of 2021 that him and his wife were separating. The board asked him to take a break and to do like a 6-week counseling. He did take a break, but it was only for 2 weeks, and he said he came back to the church because he said God told him to return. I'm not going to get into whether God told him or not, because when God speaks to you, he speaks to you. And so I'm not going to get into that. But here's the part I want you to really look at. This is a part I wanted to pay attention to. It says that as a situation at venue is the name of the church, as a situation at venue deteriorated, the pastor's sermon took on an air of desperation. He started calling people out in public for not donating enough and spoke frequently about not associating with the enemy, which some took to mean the people who had left the church. And then they say the final straw for some was a 16-week series the pastor hosted called Dirty Destinies, which centered around people in the Bible who had done terrible things but later recovered. The reason why I pointed out this part is because here's what I don't understand why pastors do this is they have a situation that they're in. People get hurt, they leave, or they get angry and they leave. And then the pastor says to the people who are still in the congregation, I don't want you to have any relationships with them. They are now the enemy. I have a big problem with that. Yes, Tyrone, and then I'll get back to you, Avery. Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
When you say things like that, this the essence of creating a cult. I am complete.
Good. Yes. That's good. Yes. Avery, go ahead. Yes.
Well, I think in the grand scheme of things, we, the body of Christ, has to be held accountable and responsible for the culture that we have created and allowed leaders to do this
Right.
continually,
Right.
because
Right.
because
Right.
because he won't be the last one. But
Right.
we'll be talking about somebody else later. But
Mhm.
but again, it's what we allow. We 2 weeks and he's back. Someone should have said no. We said 6, And if you come back, we're going to have this plan that we can remove you, or so on and so forth. But a lot of times, especially with, and see, I don't know if he inherited the church or if he started it from the ground up.
He actually started this church
And
from
so,
the
and that's what I thought, because when
right.
you start something like that, you feel that it's yours.
Yes.
There you go.
And so that's that, and a lot of times when things like this happen, if we notice, a lot of those are from those pastors who have started it, so they feel like, this is mine.
Right.
So, but it's just that we have created this culture that it's out of control.
Yes.
It's really out of control, and we just have to find a way to reel it in, because it's going to get worse until we start addressing the deeper issues.
Right.
If we're having problems at home, that's fine. We're having problems with ourselves.
Right.
And
Right.
we need to go get some counseling and see some people to help us navigate through all of this stuff that we're going through, and then be effective in teaching. Because one, Bishop Eddie Long was never able to preach with the effectiveness again that I heard him when I heard him the very first time I went to Atlanta with my aunt. And this was like in 92.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard him and I followed him and I listened to him up until that point. And
Right.
and even with me, with some of the things that I did, there are some people that were connected to me
Yes.
that because of my action,
Right.
we don't understand the trauma that we put people through by our mistakes.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we have to be held accountable and responsible for that as well.
Right. And you have to come with a humble heart. You have to come with a humble heart when you know you have done something and you are a church leader. I was a church leader. I did things, that I felt like maybe I said something, or the sermon wasn't preached because of the Bible. The sermon was preached because I wanted to target somebody, or the sermon was preached because I wanted to, go this route or go that route. It wasn't because it was a word from God. So we've all done some things that we've hurt some people with, but we cannot continue to use the verses of the Bible as weapons to fight our own defense.
Right.
When it comes to the wrong that we've done, we can't continue to allow us to use those verses to try and be, weapons against, other people. That part really hit a chord to me when the people were saying that he was calling the other people that left like the enemies and stuff like that, because I've been in that situation. Yes, Jennifer.
Actually, that triggered me listening to that part. And just like you said, coming to the pulpit humbly, even when you know you've done stuff, even when you know that everybody else knows that you've done something horrible, and the things that he was preaching about is simply the same thing that you hear from every other pastor that has done wrong and has been exposed for it. And then it sounds like we're preaching these things out of guilt, or I want you to see that I can be better, or it's possible for me to get better, or creating this mentality, let's not be with these people because those people ain't the people that we need to be connected to, and things of that nature. Like when does it go back to being church instead of trying to cop for how you feel?
Right. Exactly. Well, they have since, like I said, these the pastor had divorced his wife, and there's children involved. The young lady, her husband divorced as well, and there are children involved there too. And the members have suffered greatly for this. There are some people that were saying in this story that some of the members recall hearing some of the members say they would die for this church. And one of the members commented on here, he says, y'all have lost your ever loving minds to ever think you would die for a certain church. And it just brings back to, like you said, Jennifer, it triggers you. It triggers me because I've been through church split. And I've seen that and I've felt that.
Me too.
And it can be very hurtful to people. But what I want people to know, these pastors that are out here, because Avery, you were a pastor as well. Myself was a pastor as well. We are human. We go through some things, but start paying more attention to your own actions and understand that the Bible is true when it says what's done in the dark will come to the light. And so if you think that you're going to be covering something up and doing things in secret, you're a pastor. You have to know that it's going to be found. You have to know that. And when it is, I don't think that you should continue to try to cover it and keep trying to cover it. Just expose it. I believe it was it Swagger that when he was caught, he went in front of that congregation and he said, I have sinned. If I have
sinned against God and my family. I'm sorry.
Avery, yes. Oh, have mercy.
You know why I'm laughing so hard? Because you sound just like him.
I'm sorry. Oh man.
Oh,
I remember that. I remember that.
Let me tell you, even though he had sinned and sinned greatly, that man stood in front of that congregation, in front of all those people, and it was packed. It was a packed house. I remember it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he did just like Avery did. He told me he had sinned, and he got ahead of it. He sinned. He wasn't waiting for somebody to write the story on it. They had already told him they were going to put that story out there. And so I have to admire him for that part. I don't know if he, did anything, again after. I don't know. But I do have to admire the man for stepping out there in front of millions of viewers that were on the television program and all those people that were sitting in the congregation and saying he sinned. So let's try and do things the right way. We are going to pray for not only those members, but other church members. When you go through this, because like the lady said, and that really touched my heart when she said, I used to be a very mean person and a bad person. And when I went to the church, I started doing better. Now she was saying that she don't know what she's going to do with herself. And that makes me think, my God, we've got to watch for people like that. Yes. Who had the comment?
I was thinking that, sometimes we don't realize the great things that God is doing in and through the people of God in the church. And then when we do something to betray the church or to, act out in a way, just like with Shirley Murdoch, we don't be counting up the costs,
Yeah.
We don't understand down to that woman how our actions can truly affect us.
Yeah.
They went, I'm sure they went into this thinking about, oh yeah, my husband, my wife, my children, but they're not even, I don't feel personally, I don't feel that they thought about the multitude of people in their congregation that will be sorely affected by their deeds, by fulfilling what they wanted to do just because they wanted to do it.
Yes, it does say that some of those, it says in the article, some of those who left venue have since found new churches. And it says that some of them have taken up new ministries themselves. And then it also says, but some former members say that their experience at venue has soared them on church entirely. Yeah. Some of their members are done with church entirely. Yes, Avery.
And well, I was thinking, as Jennifer was talking, there's a difficulty for people to distinguish between the building and the gift of the people that were working in the building. And a lot of times when those people that were connected do something like that, instead of us focusing in on the people, we look at the whole. And to a degree, I can't blame them, but then to a degree, I do blame them
Yeah.
because you should be able to at some point in your walk be able to, okay, I've matured to a place where I've been hurt here, but I've been hurt by them. So I can distinguish what they did, but still come to the place where I can maybe get my help from someone else. So I think that's where a lot of times we damage a lot of people because we do things within that wall, and like you said, or like they said, I'm just done with it altogether.
Yes.
But then too, some people are disgruntled anyway. And when something like this happens, this was the last straw anyway. So they're like, well, hey, I'm done. I'm done.
But I feel like we all need to push to teach that it is God that made these changes. God, brought these great things into your life. God has done these things. Yes, these were the vessels that did that, but these are human beings that can do wrong as well. So, I believe the people that are just off on church in general, or prayerfully, they're not off on God. But we can only hope that they realize the difference, because there certainly is a difference. One thing I love that Pastor Martin has said, and I've leaned on it heavily, he says, when it comes to trusting people, trust in God first. Because when you start to put your trust in man, unfortunately, a lot of times you will get disappointed because they're just a man, So as we continue to trust God and trust the God that are in the people that are around us, we can also trust that God will remove the people that are not here for us.
Right.
And God will continue to have great people in our lives.
Absolutely.
Can I say this too? And I'll talk. But imagine though, if the church, if we were at a full, healthy, functional, biblical Ephesians chapter number 5, 5-fold ministry church where everybody was equal. You understand what I'm saying? Where everybody was equal, and if one of the 5 fell off, one of the 4 stands up and fills the gap. So the people who were just looking at the one said, "Well, look, there's 4 others that I can go to."
So
And
everything just
so
doesn't
we're
fall
so
apart.
imbalanced. You know what I'm saying? It's just so imbalanced where everything is pastor. And so he has the weight of everything. He has the burden of
all
everything.
eyes on him.
All eyes on him. When it should be spread around. And then if the pastor slips, I go to the prophet. If the prophet is off, I go to the teacher. The teacher's off. The evangelist takes up the slack. So, I'm just saying, I think if there were more that healthy, full functioning, if everything were on the same playing field, maybe, just maybe, we would be able to catch some of those as they're walking out. We could pull them back in by the suit and say, hey, don't go just yet.
Yeah.
But I think that starts with having a mind for community, because it feels a lot of the pastors they want to have themselves pushed up into the forefront and stand on that pedestal and be the top, the number one under these lower ones right here. So if there was more a sense of camaraderie, or a sense of the pastor understanding and knowing that if I need to step away, I have these people right here. If I need to take some time for myself and make sure that my family's good and that my family life, my marriage, all of that is good, I have these people over here that's going to come together and make sure the church is good. And I'm going to know the church is going to be good because we have all worked together to build this community. And I don't think I've ever seen a church like that, and I would love to see a church like that.
Well, it's just like what Avery said. If you have like the 5-fold, if you have the people there together working, it's going to work. Here's the problem again, like Avery said when he questioned who started the church. He started the church. So a lot of these pastors do that. They start these churches, they build them up, because this was mega church. This was mega. He built it from he got an abandoned Costco building. Okay. And he filled that church. So we all know what Costco buildings look like.
Ooh-wee.
So here's what a lot of pastors do. They build these churches from the sweat of their brow, and then they get on these pulpits and they are afraid to let somebody else share that platform
Mm-hmm.
because they have built that platform from their brow. They said in this article that this man would get kicked out of the malls because he would spend 8 hours a day in the malls passing out and recruiting and getting people to join his church. That's a full-time job he spent in that mall to try and get people to join, and it worked. His marketing for the church worked. So he worked hard and got it. So what a lot of pastors feel like they's like, hey, I built this up. I don't know if I want to add somebody else on here. But you have to get in a place where if God's going to lead you, he's not going to lead you astray.
Right.
He's going to lead people that are going to join you, that's going to help you so that you, like you guys said, so the weight is not all on you alone. So some of these pastors take on this weight themselves. It's not God putting all this weight on them. They're putting it on there themselves, and then they're constantly trying to lift it. And when they can't get it off their chest, they don't know how to call for help.
Right.
Mm. But he was
They
able to pass his
can't-
house key.
I think the wife, I don't know, the wife may have given them, I'm going to say allegedly, the wife may have known about, hey, you guys want to surprise my husband? That's great. Okay, here's
Mhm.
Surprise him.
or maybe the wife kind of suspected something was going on, and
Right.
maybe it was
She
like,
ain't
well, why
stupid.
would you surprise? I don't know. Allegedly.
Mm,
I
mm,
don't know.
mm,
That's
mm.
just my thought. I don't know. But here's the other part that I wanted to say on here. Some of the members, they said that they were sorely, they left the church. And here's the part. They said when they left the church, it left them questioning what is real and who they can trust.
Mhm.
Now that's a sad point right there. It's really a lot. But I want people to know that, like, I think it was Jennifer that said this. When you go to church, you have to be focused on God. We cannot continue to put all our focus. Yes, we're going to love our pastor. Everybody, it's just like the football players. They love their coach. They love their coach. But it does not mean that their coach is in charge of that game. He is just instructing them, but there's a higher up, there's an owner that owns that team.
Oh, yeah.
And that coach still have to take his information from that owner. And if that coach does not do what that owner says to do, that coach will be replaced with somebody else.
Right.
The same works in church. That pastor has somebody higher up that he has to be accountable to. And if he does not do what God wants him to do, then that pastor will be replaced. So we have to keep our eyes focused on God. Comments, suggestions. It's just the truth. I think a lot of times I used to attend this church, and then we'll close this out here shortly. I used to attend this church in Florida, and there was this guy by the name of Tommy Zito. And Tommy Zito would come in and preach, and he would always do revivals. He was a revival person, and he loved the youngsters, the young kids. That was his calling, the young kids. He could bring them in, and he could rally them up, and we'd be in that church, and we'd be wailing and praying, all night, and have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work. You probably leave 5 o'clock from the church in the same clothes you had on and have to go to church. To work. Tommy Zito had these things where he always would say, you have to have your God glasses on, where you would have to stop looking at in your natural view and put on your God vision glasses so that you could see what God sees. And it meant that, you just stop trying to look at things through your own eyes and stuff like this. He was a very, very good motivator, very good pastor. The sad part about Tommy Zito was he loved the people so much, the kids, but he never asked for like offerings. And he ended up losing the church, allegedly losing the church, because he cared more about just bringing them in and just praying and praying and praying, but didn't run the church as the business part. but his vision and thoughts of everything was remarkable. But I just can't do all the wailing, all night like we used to do. I,
Mm-mm.
you know,
Look,
some
Jesus said, "Can you not watch with me for an hour?"
I did for like 12 hours. But Tommy Zito was he's a great pastor. And I'm not sure if he's still pastoring out, but he was a great pastor. But we do have to keep our eyes on God, and we do have to understand that there are going to be some slip ups, some failures, some people are going to do some things. Yes, Avery.
I think one of the things that a lot of people don't have is an authentic encounter with God while they're involved in the church. Because and I said it because there and I think we've all experienced it, where when you have that encounter, it is those that encounter gives you those God glasses where you're able to
Right.
discern and you're able to distinguish
Right.
how far do I go. I know that this is my leader and this is all, but I know I have a connection with God so much so that I can differentiate,
Yes.
between. And I think, we need to pray that a lot of people just have an authentic encounter while they're in church, where they'll be able to differentiate and separate themselves,
Yeah.
sanctify themselves in the church.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that some of these people that went to this church, I think some of them may have had that encounter. But I think what some people do is they have that encounter with God in the church, and then something happens like this with the pastor, and they forget the encounter they had with God.
Mm,
They are so focused on what happened to the pastor.
right.
And so they forget and they feel like, everything is now tainted.
But then too, we can't. I think sometimes too, and I know I have to watch myself too. We can't be dismissive of those traumas too, because
No.
they are real. They are real, and
Yes.
sometimes it takes, when you have put your trust in an institution or in a person so much so, and then that happens.
It hurt.
It takes some people a long time to recover.
There are some people that never recover from something
Yeah,
like
Mhm.
that.
true, true.
They
Absolutely.
never recover. They don't. But we don't want any of our people or any people that are viewing this to get stuck in that. We don't want you to feel like, the pastor failed and so now you feel like you're a failure.
Right,
No, that's on the pastor.
right.
That's not on you. That
It,
is really on that pastor. Yes, Jennifer.
I can only hope anybody that is struggling from situations like that, that has happened within the church. I feel like a lot of the reason why it's they're not able to make it to the other side is because they're not opening their minds or hearts for something different.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've heard this and that for so long in the church, and now that that has failed you, now you need to be open for something else so that you can see more of God. So
Right.
I encourage everyone that is struggling with that, just know that there's more out there. There's more people that are doing right by God, or at the very least being transparent and making sure that y'all know, like, look, I have fallen too. Please forgive me
Right.
as I'm
Right.
going through what I'm going through right now. That's
Absolutely.
commendable. So please don't give up on the church.
No.
Please continue to pray. Please continue to go to God because he didn't fail you.
Right.
Mhm.
It's just people that has hurt you. So I encourage you to open your heart to something new.
Absolutely. And know that we are all have sin. We all have blemishes on us. We all have blemishes. So there's not going to be any perfect church.
Mm-mm.
Not yet. The Bible says he's coming to look for that church without spot or wrinkle. He says he's coming to look for it. And like Avery said, wouldn't it be wonderful and grand if we can find that Ephesians church? Wouldn't it be wonderful? It's not here yet. It's not here yet. But I believe if we can do like Avery said, and we all come together and we use all of our gifts together for what is good, and we start slowly getting rid of some of those blemishes that we have ourselves, like you all said, let's seek the counseling that we may need so that we can get ourselves cleaned and we're not carrying around these blemishes anymore. Then I believe if we will unite, come together, talk about our differences, talk about the problems that we have, then we will be able to have the way that we can say we can now build this church together. And pastors, stop carrying all the weight. Trust people, put them up there, let them help you out. Stop doing it yourselves because you don't have to. Tyrone.
Listening to all of this, what I see happen a lot of times in the church is the leadership waits for them to come to them and not seek out
Right.
those great men and women to build your church. You waiting for everybody to come to you, but no, that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Jesus,
even when we look at Moses, when he started to build up around him, he went out, not have them come in.
You know what, Tyrone? I was just looking at that. I was looking at that last week, and I beg to. It was the people that chose. Jethro looked at Moses. He said, "Hey, what you doing is crazy." So the people actually looked at the people and say, I want you, I want you, I want you, I want you, and even took that burden off. But like you said, though, and it was like what I noticed. He said, make captains of tens, of hundreds. And so
there you go.
You don't have to. I can have someone over 5 people and pour just as much in the 5 than I would in 500.
Yes,
but I'm still taking that burden off of you guys, so y'all can do what y'all supposed to do.
Right.
And in all of that, that's when they get your spirit and they become in alignment with you. That when you are out and absent from the church, your spirit still lives on.
Wow.
In your absence,
You're still reaching for the same.
We're still reaching the same glory without you here.
That's right. That's right. I think a lot of pastors need to do this, and I want to thank the Holy Spirit for giving me this. A lot of pastors need to stop trying to build the choir and start trying to build the pulpit.
Facts.
That's what we need to start doing. There's so many people trying to get that choir going, and you want to have the best choir, you want to compete in all the competitions that they have, and all this, and you putting all this into the choir. When you could have one soloist can have that, and you can have all these put all this more time into building that pulpit.
Okay.
I think that's something that we need the churches need to focus on.
Actually, all of that is nothing but the euphoria of the church that we've gone and got accustomed to having.
Oh yeah.
Right.
The music makes us feel good and makes us feel in the spirit because it enhances the spirit that's already there.
But when that song is over,
what's happening once that song is done?
Right.
Does the spirit continue to rise, or does it fall flat back down to the ground?
Yeah. And we all know we need Judah. We need I call choir Judah. We all need Judah. We need that sound to go out before.
Yes.
It's okay to have that sound go out before. But I think we need to start building up these men and irregular spirit. And we need to be able to build them to know what to do, what is right.
Yes.
And not try and say, well, we do this when we're alone and we do this when we're in the pulpit. That's how some ministers have gotten in trouble from seeing things behind the closed door and thinking that it's okay to do it behind the closed door. And then when they get exposed because they're behind a closed door, but it's actually a sliding door with glass and somebody sees them, they don't know how to react. They don't know how to handle it. So we got to start teaching people where the way you are is the way you should always be.
Yes.
So there's no hiding. You don't have to worry about who's watching. You don't have to worry about what cameras are on. You don't have to worry about any of that.
Oh my gosh. That makes me think about my little brother, I used to when I was younger and when I say younger, like, in my 20s or whatever, I would be in Facebook acting one way because I know my family is in there and, the church family's in there. And then on Instagram, it's a whole nother person. And my brother one day is like, well, why hide who you are? It's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sir, you have an amazing point. Because, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people that are Christians or people that are not Christians, have an opinion on what Christians should be. And if we're only seeing one part of you, one iota of you, like, you're not even being seen as a full person, much
Right.
less, a human being on this earth. All we know that you do is you go to church, you like to sing gospel songs, you like to pass around church memes that don't have cuss in it because we don't want to, offend anybody. And then, and then on the other side of town, you cussing yourself, or you indulge in all of that, and you're just a whole nother person, and only just a few people know of that person. So I encourage men and women of God just to be themselves at all time. If you
Absolutely.
realize that you're putting on a front, just know that you are doing a disservice to the world, because all we think and see is just this positive side of you, and then people get confused. We
Confused.
have an issue one day.
Right. The Bible says in Psalms 139, verse 14, 139 and verse 14, it says, I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are thy works, and that my soul knoweth right well. And the reason why I wanted to say that scripture before we close this out is because I want everyone to know that God made you the way he wanted you to be. If he wanted you to be a duplicate, he would have created you to be an exact twin. Even twins are not exact. Even twins have their uniqueness about them. So you are fearfully and wonderfully made the way you are. So, I love this. I love that we hit on these topics today. I'm sorry we went a little bit over time, but I'm so grateful that you guys joined us. I almost didn't want to hang up, and I was actually sleepy, but I started getting into this message, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready now.
Let's go.
I'm ready now. Hey, we want to thank you all for joining us today. We want to remind you that you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. We're on Twitch now as well. Here you can like and share our channels. Also, we would like you to know that Jennifer and Tyrone have a Faithful Warrior Ministries platform. They're on Facebook and YouTube Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. Make sure you go on there and you join them, okay? And then we also have an author with us. Here's our author, Avery Thompson. He has a book out called The Preacher and His Porn. You can find that on lulu.com. Make sure you get your copy. It is a must read. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Truth and Triumph Ministries, for helping us with this platform. We appreciate their generosity and their support. Remember, you can check out our show every Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. We're here at the Juice Radio and Talk Show. We don't focus on the gossip. We're all about telling you the truth. I'm so happy you guys were here today. Any closing words or thoughts for anyone right now?
Excellent
Try
show.
Jesus for yourself.
I know that's right.
Jesus. He's all right. Is he all right?
He's all right.
All right.
He won't hurt your feelings.
He's all right. He ain't gonna hurt
He's
your
all
feelings. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next week. 1, 2, 3. Let's say bye.
Bye.